everyone, and welcome back to the Alpha Art Gallery's Meet the Artist series. My name is Elena Soboleski, and I'm excited to be joined by Alan Chimacoff, an exhibiting artist in our upcoming New Brunswick Art Salon exhibition, Reflections of the Living World. Hi, Alan. How are you today?
I'm never better.
That's wonderful. Well, Alan, your work is really intriguing because you capture such unique perspectives, lighting, and spaces that create a very strong composition. Can you tell me where you begin with your thought process of how you capture these kinds of photographies?
Well, I really just photograph things that intrigue me visually and almost exclusively physical things and things that people have made. I don't take pictures of people and I don't take pictures of people because I'm not interested in not that I'm not interested in people because I got all kinds of friends, but it's too haphazard a world, and I much prefer things that are physically composed. I spent a lifetime as a design architect, and so that comes along with those kinds of things, and it's always been a serious concern to me. Comes the idea of things being properly composed has come naturally after a while. I mean, after you mess around with things where you compose them purposefully over God knows how many years, and then it just that's so I photograph things that I like
Hmm.
or that are interesting. But I should add though that I throw away a lot of pictures because um, things that interest me sometimes don't necessarily interest me when I look at them carefully in the computer. And I spend a lot of time working on the development of each image. So it's not just shoot randomly and everything is fine. Never the case.
Oh, yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, wonderful. I know that you're also an architect and have been designed several buildings and was a professor too. How has been an architect strengthened or shaped your skills as a photographer and
Well,
vice?
as I alluded to, it's all really of a piece. I mean, you think about composing things and making things of visual interest. Photography is much purer, visually purer than architecture because it doesn't have pragmatic and functional things that you have to worry about, and you don't have to keep the water out. And those are always realistic limitations on what you can do architecturally. Um, I've always made pictures. I started when I was a little kid, and drawings and photographs and compositional doodles. When I was an undergraduate, I did a lot of sculpture and almost went to graduate school in fine arts, but I felt I owed a debt to my father's investment, and so I went to work as an architect and stayed that way for many decades.
Wow, yeah. I feel like architecture is a good mix of like both the art side and then the math technical side.
Yeah, you don't have to do, I mean, if you're, some aspects of architecture require math and technical stuff, but it doesn't necessarily do that. I mean, you have to pass those courses, and so you have to be able to do the computational things. But every architect who is smart relies on professional engineers for the technical work.
Yeah. You truly show a different viewpoint on manufactured things and buildings that many people don't even notice. What do you hope your audience takes away from your artwork? What kind of influence do you want your art to have on others?
Well, of the sort that are in this show, I do a bunch of different things, but of the photographs that are in this show, it's really hoping that people will look more closely at ordinary things, um, because of what they've seen in my pictures. I mean, lots and lots of times people will look at those things and just say, "Gee, I never would have seen that," and that's important to me. That's the group of pictures included comes from a recent show that I had that was called Purposeful Ambiguities. But the first title of that show was Seeing Closely, and it's a long story of how and why it changed. But it's really about uh, seeing unusual things in usual circumstances and hoping that spurs other people to see things as well.
Yeah, it's wonderful. You seek out certain details. The term you used, I believe, is pictorial space. Do you know where to find these spaces? I know you kind of picked up on, explained a little bit that. What do
Um,
you, yeah, look out for and
well, to me, pictorial space is how we normally see things. I mean, you see things in depth, you see things in perspective. Essentially, it's pictorial space is like pre-modern painting. And then modernity showed up and cubism showed up. And that space is very different from the deep space. It's sort of flat, compressed, shallow. Things are fragmented and fractured. I'm interested in both. And some images combine both. Um, I so it's those are motivating forces. That's what they are.
yeah.
It's interests.
Hmm. And you just always been interested in that, right? You just been
Well,
the
once I learned what cubism was, and then I learned also more or less simultaneously what it was not railing against, but how it differentiated from conventional means of seeing. And we look at the world. I mean, go back to pre-Renaissance paintings, and people had to struggle to learn how to paint in perspective
Mhm.
because it wasn't so easy. They did a pretty good job, and it developed over time. And then in the I guess it was probably the 15th century, early 15th century, perspective was codified, and people were figured out how to construct it in ways that represented realities more accurately. And so that stuck around for several hundred years. And
Mhm.
then Picasso and Braque showed up. A couple of people before them, Cezanne, started fracturing and breaking up surfaces. And those guys just changed conceptions of space to what has developed in quite an elaborate way since then.
Yeah.
It's
I know
interesting. It's just pure visual interest to me.
that is very interesting. I know you've also like broken down some of like how you see these certain spaces. You explore like steel, evocation, the ephemeral, and tapestries. What drew you to these types of explorations, and which one did you enjoy the most?
Well, I think the one that intrigues me the most are these steel evocations. The tapestries are a little more than uh, replicas, multiples of one image. Sometimes they're just laid out in a grid. There are always some sort of grid. Sometimes the grid slips so that you can see readings that go across. Usually they're 4 by 6.
Mhm.
And what interests me about those is that you don't know what's going to show up, and sometimes really interesting things show up. I've had a show of those, and I started out thinking it was not such an important thing, and colleagues said, "No, you really got to make a bigger deal of it."
Mhm.
The ephemera are mostly photographs of um, the innards of fireworks. And again, it was pure discovery. I had this was years ago. I had a cheap Nikon with a 720 millimeter, which was zoom lens with 720 as the max. And so from, I don't know, a quarter of a mile away, I took pictures from a rooftop of local fireworks. Um, And they were really intriguing because they were not of the shape of fireworks that you're accustomed to with the bursts and the sprays and so forth, because they were inside the explosions basically. And something compelled me to reverse them. So I reversed them so they're all black on white. And it again totally unimagined and pure discoveries. But the steel evocations are to me the most interesting. Their color, they are all of the surfaces of Richard Serra's raw steel sculptures, or they're not even sculptures, they're installations, not the rusty ones, but the other ones, with and using Photoshop. And I just was fiddling to see, because you get tinges of colors on the surfaces, but when you work through them in Photoshop, um, you discover that there's colors and patterns embedded in the steel that I'm pretty sure comes from the manufacturing processes of making the steel and then rolling the steel. There's directional things, and so again, just I guess you could explore them in another imaging program than Photoshop, but so it doesn't really matter. But so it's a combination of the embedded into the molecular structure, shapes and colors, and then because these things are so big and they hang out in steel yards, basically, they get rusty a little bit on the surface. So it's a combination of surface imperfections and distortions, and those usually they show up more in the form of rusty orange and so forth. But the two together give another kind of overlay of again a little bit like the flattened spaces of the cubist stuff that I was talking about before.
Yeah, your some of the works you submit, the Kiosk Cubism, is that how you pronounce it? Those are
Well,
those still
no, actually, the kiosk cubisms are um, they are taken with my phone, and they
okay.
and kiosk is what it was, and
Mhm.
cubism is a spatial thing. Right in the middle of town, there used to be an information kiosk that had tape on it and things that had been pulled off and residual pieces of scraps of paper and so forth. And so it was a photograph of the kiosk itself and with the information junk on it, sort of a palimpsest of layers of things. That then again, sort of like the steel evocations, just sort of working through textures and colors to intensify it. Occasionally I change colors, but I don't much do that. So they're really colors that are inherent in what was basically a grayish piece of aluminum stuff that had all this junk on it. And I don't know, it's as I started out when you asked me the first question, it's just about what's visually interesting to me.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I do other kinds of things. I mean, the I'm a member of Soto Photo Gallery in New York, which is a cooperative. And just recently, I had a show. Well, I'll tell you about that later.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, you said you were interested, you find what you think is very interested. You've also I've read that you want to find like stories in like unrelated objects. What story have you learned so far? Have you been able to find the story that you wanted, or are you still looking?
Well, in this group, I mean, there's only three of these in the show. apparently because of the size. But in the series that they came from, the ones that are what I mentioned before was called Seeing Closely or Purposeful Ambiguities. It's really the visual characteristics of one photograph to the next, to the next, to the next. Color, shape, sometimes there's a sense of a gesture that are of some kind of similarity that connect them one to the next to the next. And so that's what the story is. I mean, it's a visual story.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Um, you have made a lot of outstanding achievements with your work and as an architect. I know you've been awarded with the 2019 recipient of the New Jersey American Institute of Architects, Michael Graves Lifetime Achievement Award. I just say congratulations, that's a great honor. You have been in several exhibitions throughout the country, such as Los Angeles, Dallas, and Atlanta. Just wondering how have these experiences shaped you as an artist?
Well, as I said in the beginning, it's really of a piece that they all kind of link together. And the I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have a plan about what to do next. And go back to the very first thing I said. It's really what intrigues me visually, and I never know what I'm going to see next, so I don't know what's going to intrigue me visually. It's a little bit haphazard, I admit. And recently, I've spent a lot of time going back through older work, and what has really interested me there is that sometimes, and I shoot because it's unlike the old days when you had to pay for film and processing. Digital photography is free, basically, until you print it, and so I shoot profligately. I mean, and that means I've got too many things to look at, and sometimes I'll have 4 or 5 different versions of the same thing. And when I go back, as I've been doing recently, a little more than I had previously, I do that in bad weather because it's not so much fun to go out when it's raining and very cold. I find things and I wonder why I selected the one that I did when the one next to it is more interesting. And now I don't know whether that's boredom speaking. I don't know whether that's intellectual growth, visual growth speaking. So then I'll sometimes reprocess and other times when I look at them, I say they're all junk and just chuck them all. So it sounds haphazard. It is haphazard, and I guess the organizing factors are what's internal and what my own meters and preferences turn out to be at any given time.
Yeah, I know it is just like a very big like exploration and all. How do you see your art progressing in the future? What kind of themes, topics, and places do you hope to explore through your photography going on?
Again, as I said, I've been going back to older things, and I don't, as I also said, I don't really have a plan. I just had
Mhm.
a show in New York about New York with a collaborator, a colleague in the Soho Photo Gallery. The show was called New York, New York, Two Bites of the Apple.
Mm.
Um, my bite and his bite were very different because I photograph the city and sort of architectural photographs and urban photographs, avoiding people, usually shooting above head level at what's there to be seen. So it's sort of like creating a stage set, and his photographs are all of the drama on the ground. He's a street photographer, and he's a brilliant street photographer. He has great pictures of all kinds of wacko and interesting street activities. He's also very smart and very witty, and so he'll hang out in front of a peculiar sign and wait till someone shows up and does something that's related to the sign. There's one that he's got that was in this show that is where the sign is about how smoking is very dangerous and injurious to your health in the long run, and the guy next to the sign is blowing out this huge puff of smoke from a cigarette or a cigar that he was smoking. Just great. So I mean, the two things together. My photographs, it turns out, were all older photographs, and I used to spend more time in the city photographing, just wandering through the city, than I do now. But they're really interesting, and so I'm going back to many of them with that in mind. And the show was such a success. We're looking for ways to expand it and find larger, more public venues than just the Soho Photo Gallery.
That's wonderful. How's that going? Is it going pretty
well? We've heard back from the Museum of the City of New York saying that they're booked until the end of 2029.
Oh.
So, I mean, by then, I think my used by date might be expired. I mean, I have no idea. So we're working on it. I'm being in touch with the American Institute of Architects to see what possibilities exist.
Yeah, that's great. I hope it goes well.
Thank you.
Very successful so far. Well, it was wonderful hearing your creative world and all. Is there any last final comments you want to say or anything about your work?
No, not really. I find it a little bit difficult to talk about this stuff anyway. It's more about the deeds than the words, period.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, and I had a wonderful time learning about your photography world. Your work reveals how your fascination with wanting to understand the story of unrelated subjects, seen closely in architecture and manufactured things, has turned photographs into a narrative of purpose and appreciation. And we're honored to feature your work in our exhibition, and we look forward to sharing your vision with our community. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm honored too.
Thank you so much.